Hi friends,
Hi
good
all.
evening. So இன்னைக்கு கூட இருக்கிறது one of my good friends and a fantastic biker in our country, பாலாஜி மோகன் வந்திருக்காரு. பெங்களூர்ல இருக்காரு. ஸோ அவர் இங்க சென்னையில இருக்கும்போதும் தெரியும் நமக்கு. ஸோ பெங்களூர்ல இப்போ இருக்காருங்க. ஸோ அவரு நிறைய எக்ஸ்பெடிஷன்ஸ், நிறைய கிராஸ் கண்ட்ரி ரைட்ஸ், ஓகே, ஈஸ்ட்ல இருந்து வெஸ்ட், நார்த்ல இருந்து சவுத், வேற ஏதாவது கிராஸ்ல எல்லாம் ஓட்டிருக்கீங்களா பாலாஜி? ஸோ அந்த மாதிரி ஓட்டியிருக்காரு. ஸோ இட்ஸ் நாட் ஒன்லி அபவுட் ரைடிங் அ பைக், இட்ஸ் ஹோல் லாட் எக்ஸ்பீரியன்ஸ். அவங்க வாழ்க்கை முறை, ஒரு பைக்கரா இருந்து என்னென்ன பிளான் பண்ணியிருக்காங்க, எப்படி பண்ணியிருக்காங்க, எல்லாமே கேட்கணும்னு இது பல நாள் பிளான் பண்ணது. ஒரு 4 வருஷமாவே பேசிட்டு இருக்கோம். நம்ம இது மாதிரி ஏதாவது பண்ணலாம் பாலாஜி, நீங்க என்ன பண்ணிருக்கீங்கன்னா சொல்லணும், நிறைய பேருக்கு இந்த எக்ஸ்பீரியன்ஸ் ஒரு மோட்டிவேஷனா இருக்கும்னு நான் சொல்லிட்டு இருந்தேன். ஸோ பாலாஜி என்னமோ இன்னைக்கு தான் வந்திருக்காரு. ஸோ இப்போ ஒரு ஒரு 6 minutes ஆச்சு. இன்னொரு 4 minutes பாலாஜியை அவரை என்ன பண்றாருன்னு ஜென்ரலா இன்ட்ரடியூஸ் பண்ணிக்க சொல்றேன். அதுக்கப்புறம் ஒரு 5 minutesல உள்ள செஷன்ல இறங்கிடலாம். பாலாஜி, ஒரு ஷார்ட் இன்ட்ரடக்ஷன், நீங்க என்ன பண்றீங்க, ஏது பண்றீங்க சொல்லுங்களேன்.
Sure. Thanks, Karthik, for hosting me in your channel. Is it okay that Tamil English மாத்தி பேசினா இல்ல
நீங்க
இது
எப்படி வேணா பேசலாம். என்னோட மக்கள் மேக்சிமம் தமிழ் அவங்களுக்கு புரியும்.
ஓகே, ஷூர்.
நீங்க இங்கிலீஷ் மிக்ஸ் பண்ணா பிரச்சனை இல்லை, ஒன்றும் ப்ராப்ளம் இல்லை.
ஓகே, ஃபைன். ஏன்னா நான் நிறைய பேருக்கு ஷேர் பண்ணியிருக்கேன் லிங்க், அவங்களுக்கு தமிழ் தெரியாது. ஸோ
So
அதனால
mix பண்ணிக்கோங்க.
ட்ரைங் டு
You can speak in English. That's not an issue. You can speak in English. Let's go ahead. Yeah.
ஓகே, யா. And thanks for hosting me again. So it's a different experience. All these days நம்ம நேர்ல நிறைய பேசியிருக்கோம். So seeing in live virtual world, it's the first time for me to dive into the virtual world. So it's nice. Again, I'm like I'm born and brought up in Chennai. So டிபிக்கல் சென்னை பாய் தான் நான். ஸோ ஏதோ வேலை தேடி பெங்களூர் பக்கம் அதுக்கப்புறம் அப்படியே இங்கே செட்டில் ஆயிருக்கேன் இப்போ. பட் அதர்வைஸ் டிராவல்ன்றது ஒரு பெரிய பேஷன் காமிச்சது ஆல்மோஸ்ட் லைக் இட்ஸ் எவ்ரி திங் கோஸ் வித் பீட்டர் அண்ட் நோ ஒன் எல்ஸ். இஸ் சச் அன் இன்ஸ்பிரேஷன் டு எவ்ரி ஒன். ஐ காட் இன்ஸ்பயர்ட் பை பீட்டர். So early 2010-11 பார்த்தீங்கன்னா we've been doing right left center. We started doing treks, and that's why we just started the journey. So being as a biker or a traveler is just not doing one thing. So getting your endurance and doing a lot of other things, that's where you get into. So that's where I started with. So ஒரு everything you stick on to some point of the time and get used to it, right? So that's why I started my journey with photography. To start
Oh,
with,
that's great. You're on the right channel, man.
yeah. So
Yeah.
all it started with just one thing. I just made my mind, because if I have to get my bike, I have to earn and get it. That's what first thing on me. I'm like, I have to earn my salary and get my bike. Not going with whoever getting a loan or அப்பா கொடுப்பாங்க அப்படி கொடுப்பாங்கலாம் இல்ல. So I'm a very was like lower middle class family now. So I started earning to get a bike, and it's all started when uh, my son was about to uh, so we are about to have one my son normal, like he's 8.5 years now. So மெட்டர்னிட்டி லீவ் போகும்போது தான் ஆக்சுவலா ஸ்டார்ட் ஆச்சு. ஸோ ஐ ஸ்டார்டட் சேவிங் டு கெட் அ கேமரா. ஸோ ஐ வாண்டட் டு டேக் ஃபர்ஸ்ட் கிளிக் ஆஃப் மை சன் இன் த எஸ்எல்ஆர் கேமரா. தட் வாஸ் மை ஃபர்ஸ்ட் intent of getting into the world of travel. So I would say like it all started with my son. So that's how it
Wonderful,
is.
wonderful.
So I've saved a lot. So exactly December 13 he born. So the first click was with DSLR camera. So angada started everything.
So your whole journey started with photography. That's great. I mean, lot of followers here are photographers, so I think they'll be happy to listen to this.
yeah. So I'm not just saying for saying. That's how it actually started with. So after getting into this photography, I thought I'm like, so you get exhausted doing this same thing, right? So so I kind of wanted to explore places, get in more pictures, and suddenly get into trek and cycling, and then eventually you started looking out for the mode of travel. Eventually you do backpacking, and then eventually ended up with bike. Somehow bike really got pulled into it. So so that's where it is, and then it overtook the photography interest which I had in the beginning. Again, almost like the next savings started with almost like saving for my bike. As I mentioned, from 2010 I started saving. It took 3 years for me to save the money which I wanted to get the bike. And the first bike which I got it was in 2013, the the Royal Enfield Desert Storm 500. I used
I've
to
seen
watch.
it.
Yeah,
I've seen it in Chennai.
yeah. So I used to stay in Bengaluru. That's my hometown. I I'm like I used to practice in court, so I used to travel. So every time when I cross the Chromepet Royal Enfield showroom, there used to be a Desert Storm hanged in a belt
Your
at the
heart
top.
skips a beat.
Yeah, yeah. So you keep watching every day, and then eventually one of the trips, I I got an experience of riding one of my friend's bike, Ram, and that's a I never used to get anyone's bike and then ride, even not for an experience. That's the first bike which I got to ride, and that's how after that it's all history now. So the friends and the circle which the Chennai Trekking Club has started giving me and eventually gave me an opportunity to explore and find a different person in me, which I wouldn't have even uh, be here and sitting you and talking all this experience if that wasn't there at
Balaji, I
all.
started
Yeah.
my photography workshops in Chennai Trekking Club. You started,
Yeah.
I mean, probably, I don't know, I don't remember riding with you, but I have taken a few rides with people like Arun Prabhakar. Okay, he's not there. And people like that, Pong Kadirvel and Bhubalan. So, lot of good riders. Okay. Uh, some top two riders of India in Chennai Trekking Club, both from Tamil Nadu. And you have some compliments. மகேஷ் சுப்பிரமணியம் தெரியுமா? அவரும்
Ah.
கிளாசிக் 350 தான் வந்து ரைட் பண்ணுவாரு. ஸோ ஹீஸ் ஒன் ஆஃப் டாப் வெட்டிங் ஃபோட்டோகிராஃபர்ஸ் இன் சென்னை. இட்ஸ் ஆல்சோ
Oh.
இஸ் அவிட் பேர்ட் ஃபோட்டோகிராஃபர். ஸோ அவர் என்ன சொன்னார், மெட் பாலாஜி இன் மதுரை ஃப்ரீடம் ரைடர்ஸ் கிளப் அனிவர்சரி, செம்ம ஜாலி அண்ட் டவுன் டு எர்த் மனுஷன் சொல்லியிருக்காரு.
Oh, thanks, Mahesh, for your kind words. So it's something that I've been and something I wanted to be and share the same experience and to make sure that the safety is being the priority as I always used to be. So coming back to the same thing where I started, right? So all this thing had started developing in the phase wise. So you get to switch because your mind always searches for what's next and what you can do, right? You will never get settled with one point, and that's the driving force. It drives everyone. Uh, that's why I got driven into the world of travel, and rest is all over. Like it's that's really shaped up the entire life as of such. I would say for the good. Um, so that's how it is. So after that, so once you get the bike and you started searching for what you can do and where you take your camera and how to shoot, and that's why when I started traveling with the group, and then eventually I want to test myself to see how much I am capable of and how much I can handle in terms of the rest of the world, in terms of any difficult times, in terms of anything that's thrown at you. It's just a life turning experience. I took it on me. I would say I was like voluntary wanted to do it because I want to see myself in a different place. So that's why I started doing solo trips quite often, and also I do group trips as well. One of my first solo trips was into even before that I wanted to share one small experience which actually changed my mindset. So we went on to a trek to Kodaikanal to Paradi. I'm not sure many people would know. That's a very difficult trail, which I
Yeah,
eventually
huge
ended up
boulders,
doing it.
huge boulders,
Yeah,
huge boulders. Yeah.
So eventually, I've ended up along with Arun. He's my the second inspiration. He'll always be there in my heart forever until I'm there.
Arun Prabhakar.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think mutual friend he is.
yeah. um, and that's how we started in one of the trek. And eventually, I ended up with another trek with Peter on the same trail. For some reason, there've been 8 people we ended up doing it, and halfway through end of first day, the next day morning, 5 people eventually ended up dropping out, and they eventually exited through a small village. And I was standing in the trail, and eventually Peter and one more uh, Raj, they took another trail and they bypassed me. So I was waiting for almost like a couple of hours. I couldn't see them. So eventually I got to know that Peter and Raj have bypassed. And I was somewhere in the middle. And eventually I hardly had 6 hours to cross. It's quite a distance and it requires a lot of big boulders. And some point you need to descend down with a rope. There's no other option. I had a chance to either exit through a village or to go through the entire trail which we planned and to exit the same way where we planned. I took the difficult path, um, knowing that I want to uh, realize how much I'm capable of. I started running without stopping. That really happened. I could see Peter's trail, wet marks, foot marks. I was chasing behind it. This I'm saying in 2012, I believe, 11, 12. So
Palani exploration, yeah, should be 11 and 12. That's when we were exploring Palani Hills. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Mm.
eventually, I did miss him exactly at one point where it really requires a rope to descend down. I never had a rope. So eventually, I had no other option to climb all the way uphill and then descend on the other way around. So by the time I reached up, I had some signal to call him and saying that, okay, this is what happened. I may not uh, exit today, but probably just book me another ticket for next day travel. So initially, I got a signal when I climbed up the top of the mountain. So I stayed overnight all alone, camped overnight. That was my first night all alone in the dense forest, and that is pretty known for elephants as well. I kept burning the small woods until the next day, early morning. I never slept.
Yeah, because it's Palani Hills is a elephant trail actually. Yeah,
Yeah. So that's
quite a few elephants there.
yeah. I never wanted to take a chance doing descend down in the night time, so I stayed back. That night, it really changed the way in which I was looking at the entire world and the person within me, as if the I never experienced such thing before, and the confidence which I gained after that, it was something. It rebuilt me as a person today. So the next day, I exited safely. Peter was still worried about my whether I'm safe, but eventually I exited safe, and straight away I went to. There are still these travel or something. It is part and parcel, and you always have this something to drive, right? I straight away went to this Talapakati biryani, Dindigul, had two mutton biryani, and then boarded my bus from there.
Energy.
Yeah. So I came back, and I felt really good about me. So uh, even now, that's one of my experience that changed my life. So after that, it's all the confidence which I got into. I started traveling on solo lot through bike. So that's how it changed. There are small incidents. One such instance, you take a driving force for your rest of the life, and this one is will be there for always. That's my turning point, that I would say.
I think everybody has at least a couple of stories. If you are a serious trekker or a biker in Chennai Trekking Club, I think thanks to Peter for that. I think
Yeah,
I should have also invited Peter for this talk.
yeah, we'll definitely have
I
some
think
time
I'll do it.
later.
I'll do it
Yeah,
sometime this week. I mean, he's busy preparing all his Himalayan journey webinars on Instagram. So I don't know if he has time. So anyway, so in 2013 you bought your first bike, your Royal Enfield Desert Storm. So uh, when did that whole biking thing happen to you? Like taking a biking seriously, when did you really become a mature biker? So can you talk about that?
Eventually I started. I had a plan. I didn't just go and get a bike because I just wanted to travel, because I really wanted to get a bike to travel and see the world. That's the first thing I made my mind. Eventually, for any biker who gets into Royal Enfield, is the first name that comes into the mind, right? So,
True.
and that's why it did happen to me as well. So I thought, like, this is the bike it will help me to travel the entire world. So probably I just got into it. So you won't believe, I still remember the exact dates in which April 19th is what 2013 I got my bike. April 19 evening, 4 o'clock I got the delivery. 4:05, we are straight to Chennai. So we are on the way, and my good friend Vinod, he was there, and
Which
eventually
Vinod
took
you're
a
talking about? I know a couple of Vinods in.
Vinod Kumar. He's from Bangalore. Now he is in
Oh,
Chennai.
okay,
So
I may not know him.
yeah, he's the one who actually gave his Apache, and he actually is my, I would say, a guide, and he's like a, a mentor who actually been there with me, but not now because he's there in Chennai. We lost touch, but he's there. He's the one I always wanted to reach out to me. I would reach out to him in many cases. So we took our bike, and you won't believe, it was a hailstorm. It was raining like hell. So someone told me, I'm like, when you get a bike, you need to ride at less than 50 kilometer speed, and you need to stop every 50 kilometers. And then we actually did. We rode almost like 7.5, 8 hours to Chennai. So we stopped, and then we used to take a break, and then we go. We didn't have even a jacket by then, because getting a bike was something that's not the only plan I had. So after the trip, straight away I went to Chennai, came back straight away to the first service. So almost like 1,000 kilometers done first service in two
One
days
shot.
time. One shot,
One
yeah.
shot. It's like I'm taking the bike. I'll come for service in a couple of days.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's where it started my journey into travel. So straight away I went to the store where I can get the jackets and riding pants and the saddlebags to travel. So all in one shot, it happened in 3 days time. So I bought everything which is required to travel safe, and then I saved slowly to get other things like gloves and other things, because I want to prepare myself before I hit the road. That's why I got into, after I realized that the 2 days, what happened in the first 2 days of my trip. So uh, I started more preparing on more safety, and then as I mentioned, I purchased gears to be safe on the road. Started doing travel around, plan to different trails. I always used to do off roads. That's something, it's there within me.
Off roads with Desert Storm.
Yeah, even I do it with CBR, which I have it right now.
Yeah,
So
CBI I can still believe, but with Desert
yeah.
Storm, I think with the weight and everything, I don't know.
Yeah, so it's something, it's very so we actually did very different trails, where the road ends, that's where our journey starts. So we used to do some very different difficult trails around with the groups, initially with few solo trips as well, to really test my capabilities in terms of how I handle the terrain, and how I handle my mindset, uh, set myself calm in difficult times. So all this thing was happening around, and I set up almost like a, I got towards the 13 year end, December, I got some leaves. I planned a solo journey to straight to Jaisalmer, because I thought, I'm like, I bought a desert storm.
Chennai to
It
Jaisalmer?
Yeah, so Bangalore, from Bangalore to
Bangalore to
Jaisalmer.
Jaisalmer, okay.
Yeah. So I thought of like getting a desert storm and not even taking a bike to desert. It doesn't make any sense to me. Let me take it. That's the only thing.
டெசர்ட் ஸ்டாம் டெசர்ட் எடுத்துட்டு போவாட்டி அப்புறம் என்ன டெசர்ட் ஸ்டாம்.
Yeah. So that's why I took journey was very simple. I wanted to go to Jaisalmer and come back to Bangalore. So I had planned for 8 days. Eventually, with some technical issues, the first day lost. I had to fix my bike, and then I had only 8 days. So 8 days straight away, I went to. I have my own tent. I don't book any rooms. It's just like on the way, wherever it is, you find fuel station, wherever it is, safe. What it really taught me over the time is how to identify the safe spots when you travel and how to quickly pick up these spots. That's what it really I learned looking at and traveling along with Chennai, CTC, and a lot of other people that you kind of travel along with. You you pick up spots like you don't even spend time. You just cross. More like it's safe zone. It's most of its point is more like outside the city in a small village where you find a fuel station or a dhaba. Those are the points which I usually pick up. Pitch my tent if it is cloudy. Otherwise, put a tarp, sleep, hit the road next day. So that's how it is. Ride until you get sleep. So I never used to sleep in daytime. It's all I survive with power naps, which is I also learned with our Peter how to take power naps. So these things it really
Balaji,
helped
that
me. Yeah.
reminds me, once I took my bike from Chennai all the way to through Pollachi and through, the route, Adirapalli. So I had to catch some nap in Salem. I just
Yeah.
found a platform to be a comfortable cot.
Nice.
just spread something I had, and I just slept off for 2 3 hours and took the bike and went off. Okay, it reminds me all of those days. Now I hardly use my bike for long distance rides. It's always on a car. Okay,
Nice.
getting to
Nice.
remember all these things, it's good reminiscence. Thank you for
Yeah.
bringing it, Balaji.
Yeah. So coming back to this trip, right? So this trip actually changed me the way in which I was looking at. So until then, I never even uh, traveled beyond South India. But all I learn is about how people are around us and how the people are pretty very warm in terms of welcoming a traveler. And they tend to see those days, someone like you, very less people used to travel. That's why when the biking actually started around in India. Uh, though it is there, not many people used to travel, right? So one question I was like everyone keep asking me is that trip is always remembered for one question. Um, People who know Hindi, so right, so they keep whenever I stop in any fuel station, whenever I go around anywhere, when I stop, first people come and ask me, "Hey, kitna deta hai?" What it means is what
I got it.
what's the mileage of this bike? So I I I I really don't know. Like every person whomever I met had this first question. I was like, "Hey, kitna deta hai?" So that this trip actually, I was like, it always remember me. I was like about the mileage. So
So
keeping this.
you didn't ask this question to your Honda dealer?
No, that was with Ari. So one thing I also practiced is I never wear a watch. That is these some things I practice with conscious effort. So what happens is I don't look at the numbers, not with the time, and these things I practiced a lot. So what it means is keeping yourself away from the distractions. I never look at my mobile. People used to say, "Well, like, how can you be without mobile when you're traveling?" Right. So for me, is safety is nullifying the distractions. What you get to see and what you're going into your mind, because the human mind is different, right? So our focus in real time doesn't last more than 5 to 10 seconds at one point. What it means is when you're on the road, your actual concentration is just 5 to 10 seconds that you can concentrate at one point. Every fifth or 10th second, your concentration, your mind flies back to someone somewhere else, and it comes back to you on the road on the present. I'm not sure if it literally or more like it does make any sense, or people would realize this. For me, it's how much time I hold my concentration on the road, and how quickly, when my concentration gets out of me, I pull back on the road. This is what something that I practice. So, in terms of practicing, I would say like these things, I would split into say everything into my daily life. Maybe I would say more like 1,000 parts, which I practice on a daily life even today, which makes my journey, which makes my trips, expeditions. Uh, uh, it's I would say more like to plan a safe trip, you need to prepare yourself, you need to give, and you need to compromise. So that's how it started all. So when I started these journeys, right, I tend to realize a lot of things, as I just mentioned. A lot of trial and errors went in through mind. How efficient in terms of how you can keep your mindset focused, how you can travel safe, how much you know about your bike. That's another thing. Whenever you get into a breakdown, how quickly you get on to, and how much confidence you have in terms of fixing your bike and hitting the road back then. So the anything which could stop your trip. And I made a list, a detailed big list of what all can happen. It could be accident, it could be bike failure, it could be anything else. But how do you overcome this, and how do you nullify all these things to a point or minimize these risks? That's where any trip, even when you take a people, let's say a group of people, your responsibility increases, because you not only look after yourself, and also you're responsible to look after the other people who are following you and who are coming along with. So that's where when being as a leader, or being as a say taking a people, your responsibility is always more. So I started like taking these responsibilities and taking the people to places where I have seen in my solo trips, and showing different places to people, whereby uh, you get to share these experience to them. So you never know, like someone taught me and I wanted to teach, show to the other people, and that's how the community grows, and that's how uh, I would like to contribute back to the kind of group, and that's how it started. So the Jaisalmer trip, it actually changed me when I came back, and I was, again, it's all new, man. I'm like, so I tend to realize, I'm like, come on, man. I'm like, you did it 8 days, going back to Jaisalmer and coming back all alone. So I felt really felt good about it, and that's the starting point when I realized, started preparing more. What's next? The question is always lies, right? So somewhere in our discussions, right, Arun Prabhakar always used to say that he has a goal to achieve. Uh, that's where when he started doing this north to south, and he actually did it in 92 hours. By then, it was the fastest. But the same year, it was broken by Arnab Gupta. Uh, so all this thing, he kept me saying about like, whatever happens, I'll definitely break Arnav Gupta's record, and that's where it started. So we started training more of like how to break such records, how to extremely prepare yourself, how to keep yourself awake for 2 3 days without any food, with just power naps, and all this thing. It started on my daily preparations as of such. But eventually, you set a target and you work towards it. And it took almost like 3 4 years for me, actually for 4 years, to actually to make myself realize that I can do these things. Because you don't plan some extreme records expeditions, say it could be north to south. If someone is telling me someone is doing some lay to Kanyakumari in 61 hours, by then I would have known like it's impossible, right? So you can't do it. You think of one day and then do it the next day, right? So what it happens is, it actually took whatever I learned from 2010 onwards. It really started helping me to build a plan how to break through this. So I prepared myself. So I figured out almost like the Royal Enfield bike which I had. somehow like it didn't helping me because it always had the problems and issues. So I decided to have a way kind of I would say like people who Royal Enfield who was owning it might feel bad, but eventually I need to spell it out. So
No,
I
I completely agree with it. I'm a Royal Enfield owner. Okay, just because I'm not doing any long trips now, I'm still owning it. The moment I like to do something like that, I don't think I'll take it, because I mean, after some time you'll start realizing it, right? It's not the brand, it's not the style and things like that. The tool you are owning should support your dream.
Yes, definitely. Still, the Royal Enfield bike, which is my first bike, like it is very close to my heart. That will remain always close to my heart. So, something that you need to move on, right? So, that's where when I picked up Honda, Honda CBR, I got inspired by Arun Prabhakar. He owned an Honda CBR. He never used to
250, yeah,
give to. So I had a chance to
black
ride
one,
for
black
a
one.
black. Yeah, I had a chance to ride for a very short distance, and then I got blown away. So
Sold.
so
For us, between photographers, sometimes, when we use another person's camera, and if you find it really better than yours, at first you'll feel bad. After some time, it settles in you. Okay, I want to get this, this lens, this camera. It'll work for it. It always happens.
yeah, that's what really happened to me as
He
well.
used to hate heavy bikes. That much
Yeah.
I know about Arun Prabhakar. He used to always say, the Royal Enfield இதெல்லாம் வச்சுட்டுலாம் ஆஃப் ரோட்ல பேசவே பேசாதீங்க யாருமே. That's what he used to say. Other thing he used to say is, it's not reaching a place fast. It's not about riding fast. It's being nimble on the road. He,
Exactly.
he
So
rides not more than 60 or 70. And a lot of times I never seen him uh, ride more than even 80 km per hour. But that guy is fast. Okay, he reaches on time.
I, I learned a lot from
Very
him.
nimble guy.
Yeah. So he's my another mentor. I learned a lot from him. That will remain, as I mentioned, it'll be there with me as until I'm there. So that's where so it's still the emotional point, but still a lot of things to remember. But that's another breaking point. I sold my bike, the Royal Enfield, which I had, with very heavy heart. Uh, but some point, like I said, 2 years exactly, June 2015. 2 years, I almost did almost like a 1 lakh kilometer with RE, right, left, and center, entire country, and I was on to uh, uh, CBR 250. So the intention of getting a CBR is to have one motorcycle which could take me across Southeast Asian countries as well as across India. The way in which I wanted to get a bike is Honda is being most predominant in terms of having their presence across in Southeast Asian countries where you get the spares available, and it really helps to um, achieve a target, what you're looking out, what's your dream towards it, right? So that's one of the calculation which also made me to go through Honda. I didn't even bother about what color it is. All I want is just sold my
Yeah,
bike the same day. I went to Honda showroom,
booked
um,
it.
and there's a different story to booking a bike. I know I'm going to get a Honda CBR, but I really wanted to meet the service mechanic because I know like how much I took when I had an RE. Eventually, it made me a mechanic for good to know about the bike. Uh, that's really one point. So I really went to a service station. I met Karthik, who is still with the Tansi Honda, is in Bangalore. I spoke to him. I never even wanted to take the bike color, nothing. I spoke to him. Then I made my choice. Okay, this is the bike, and this is where, and he's the man who's going to take care of the bike. This is the point. I I picked up Karthik, and he's the one who really takes care of my bike even now today. So that's where I've chosen the bike in terms of Honda CBR. It all started from there. 2015, after getting the bike, so same old story. I got the bike. You never want to settle down, right? So the next day I took the bike to Mahabaleshwar. So, so did a trip and then came back. It was monsoon by then, so it was heavy rain. I really wanted to test myself. So came back. I get a hand on my bike because whole riding an RE and switching immediately to a sports bike, it's very challenging. So I really wanted to give the time, see how I'm comfortable with. But eventually, the first 2 3 days was difficult because eventually I was pulling the bike to right left when I was turning, as if I was pulling the RE with right left with when I was maneuvering it, right? So I got a handhold of it when I returned back to Bangalore. So and there on, so September I planned for a Guinness attempt. By then it was to do most Himalayan passes across in single country. That's where that's for the first journey I started with. So it's a great journey. I figured out almost like 48 Himalayan passes, the entire trail. Kicked off my journey, started from Bangalore straight to Leh, and then started my journey. So I took this Himachal passes around. I was done with almost like 11 passes, and I was heading towards the Kishtawar. Um, so when I was in the Kishtawar Kilad Road, so that's where a small incident happened. So a rolling stone, it took off my. I was resting in one point in the morning. A rolling stone, it actually took off my index finger. You can see me. It is actually half of my index finger is chopped off by then. Um, that was very challenging. Uh, like people who have done that the entire trail would know, like um, you get less help in terms of the journey in that circuit. It took almost like 5 days. It was landslide. The road was blocked. 5 days to reach back to Bangalore, and it took 3 days to reach Jammu. So what I also realized is the people wherever you are, no matter wherever in this corner of your world, and there's always people and people with very good hearts to help you around. As long as you open up your heart to see people around you, right? And usually it happened for me. Like, there are very good people in Jammu, in Kishtawar. They took care of me for almost like 1.5 days, and from the hospital uh, to I we actually stayed in one of their hotels, and they prepared food. Everything was almost like it's entirely, you can't even ask more, right? So I took a flight and came back fifth day to home. So before almost like all this thing, right? So your journey, it doesn't mean that you're all alone doing it all alone, but the people around you, it starts from the family. That's where I did realize way before. Making your family traveling along with you, that's where you achieve. uh, I would say, like it's a pleasure, it's a journey that you have to take your family along with you. You can't travel alone. So if you're traveling alone, you will be very selfish. You won't even realize that, right? So that's where it all turned out. So right from my mom, my dad, my wife, my kid, what you see is my son. This is one of after the trip. He didn't see me almost like for 28 days. He was on my shoulder.
அநியாயம் பண்ணிருக்கீங்க.
So I lost my finger. I didn't even told my wife. I came back to Bangalore. I just boarding the flight. I told my wife saying that I'm canceling my trip because of bike issues. I'm coming back home. So I reached home, and then I told her, like, there was an accident. I lost my finger. It got amputated. So um, I was really worried about like how would she react, and because this is the first time you get to see, right? So unless you get through it and you won't know like how much the other person cares about you, and that's what it really happened. The first word, like I was thinking, like she would feel bad and probably she may not even be okay with even allowing me to travel, right? So that was something in my mind. But it put me everything, whatever I thought it was actually wrong, or whatever I was thinking. So what happened is, the first word what my wife she said is, looking at this finger, you only lost half of your finger. Don't worry, you still have the rest of the life to do it again. Next year you will go and do it. So why are you worried? so so this word actually flipped me the entire what are the thought process I was into. So it all comes from your family. So the effort what you put in, and then the journey when you take your family along with you and make them realize that what are you doing it, and doing it for the purpose, and doing it for safe, even if something happens which is beyond your control, and the acceptance towards it, right? It's a very big thing in terms of coming to the family. And it's when I hear this thing, right? So it actually, whenever I speak about it, I've spoken in many forums, but it my always my eyes gets tears rolling when I say this. So that's the emotional point that keeps you and keeps reminding you to be safe. And only thing is I always used to say is, no matter what it is, no matter which travel, whatever the travel you're taking, it could be any expeditions, only thing goes into my mind, and always I used to say to the people as well, the way in which you're going, leaving the home, you have to come back in one piece, the same way that you left home. That's the small thing I keep saying to myself whenever I keep going on to any trip. And even now, that's the only thing it keeps reminding me, and preparing me to be very safe, right? Because you have responsibilities, and you have to make sure that you are responsible for the people, and you have to take care of them as well. So these are things that actually it's a part of your life. It starts rolling along with you, and when you realize, you'll be more cautious when you hit on the road. So
See,
it's just not the
Balaji,
speed.
this is
Yeah.
one of the things I'll never forget about whatever you have told me.
Yeah.
You have told many stories about your experiences, and I
Yeah.
think this is one thing I'll never forget: how you lost your finger and how you came back to riding. See, it's not very easy for a rider when you have your right hand on the throttle, where index finger plays a major role.
Yeah.
So, how do you recoup? Okay, after that you did a record breaking ride, and
Yeah.
you did all that. I mean, it's you just didn't ride a bike. You broke a record. Okay, so how did you recoup, rebuild yourself?
It's almost like it's the human tendency to strike back again, and strike back hard, and strike back with something which we've never seen before. Like the current situation, what we're facing the world, it's Corona, right? These are tough situations, but the world will come back strong and stronger than ever before. It's the same thing which I also think, the mind, right? The self confidence is something that you will never let go in yourself, because that will be there with you always, irrespective of whatever it's there, whatever it's not there with you around, which is there in your control. And I believe in myself. It happened in September 21. I came back home on 26. I was bedridden for some time because my hands were swollen as much as big. And I eventually ended up doing October 3rd surgery in Spresh Hospital in Electronic City. uh, but but the doctor actually screwed up. Instead of stitching the remaining part, he put more pressure on the remaining part of the bone, and he pressed in uh, harder, because the movement of your finger, it actually restricted. So what happens is, I can't move bend beyond this now. So it was a surgical error, but which I couldn't even figure out initially, because the hands were swollen as big as possible. I figured out only the swellings were dropped. It took me almost like 2.5 months to reduce it. So then these are tough days. I couldn't go to office. I was traveling sometimes in cab to office. So what I tend to realize is, when I started going, there are a lot of questions. I'm like whether I could ride the bike back in the same way which I used to do. Should I compromise, or should I won't even go back to the same old days of where I wanted to do something um, that I really wanted to do? So these are questions. It's actually it got a mounting on me. So when you can't experiment yourself, right, and that's where you don't have answers to it, but you have questions mounting on you like a mountain, right? So I used to watch people how they ride. Whenever I take a cab, or even sometimes my wife used to drop me in the main road. So I used to watch how people actually use their right hand in terms of riding, right? So while applying the brake. So all at some point, almost like I get really exhausted of people. My eye exactly goes into the right hand of anyone who crosses me with the bike. So at one point I started almost like I got into too much of this. Then I realized almost like forget about who is doing what, but what you can do is something that you can change yourself. Then I slowly practiced a lot of things with pulling up weight, lifting weight in terms of your the right hand. Eventually figured out my left hand was even more flexible as the same as my right hand. I started having my foot. To some extent, I can manage with flexibility in terms of the left hand as well now these days after this injury. That really it's a very good thing. So strengthening your rest of the fingers is my next point. You lost, but you have remaining fingers, right? So if you strengthen it, you'll achieve the same power even if you wanted to do with your index finger if you don't have it, right? So that's the point. So I started strengthening more on the rest of the fingers and figuring out how could I could cope up with the loss, and uh, without even getting into my mind. So these are the practice small things I started doing it on a daily basis, and preparing my mind to say that it's almost like whenever you get onto injury, whenever you're sitting at home, the depression is the very bad thing that it slowly gets into your mind. And I very much depressed at that point as well. uh, I figured out I need to break through this. If I have to break through this, I have to build my confidence. I have to do something beyond the imaginations. That's where when I had a target of doing something with less than 92 hours or so, I really wanted to do it as less as possible. That the north to south expedition, and to prepare myself to something very extreme. And if someone wanted to say these are something which is extreme in motorcycle, something I really want to go for that. So these are the ways you prepare yourself to build your mind and get through these depressions. So that really helped me. What I also do is somewhere I don't read a lot of books, but I pick up information whichever is relevant to me and throw the rest of the things, the Google, which throws you all the positives and negatives things, right? So somewhere I read the live meditations in terms of even if you are there, you open eyes, even if you're there around, still you can meditate. It's something which I read, and it really helps me as well. So what happens is I started doing live meditations when I go on for a walk. I don't get into interpretations of what people are doing, where are they going, what should I have to come back and do after the walk. These are the things that when you step out or when you're doing something, even now while we speak, I'm like, what I'm going to do after this call, right? So all these things is get into my mind. So I really want to break the sequence and live the moment, whatever it is there at that point, that moment. So this comes out of years and half years of practice. By slowly started doing it more, that really helped me to get out of the depression, also get your focus back on the road. So these 4 months was very difficult, but no matter what it is, the family is something that is always there with you. So after this September 21 incident in 2015, the first trip I went out, it was almost like end of November. I used to cycle by then to office. Even otherwise, do some cyclings around. um, I tied my finger with a plastic cover, make sure that nothing was. It was raining. I want to break through this. I cycled for almost like nearly 4 hours around. I took some very difficult terrain. It was raining. So to come out of this, I really want to flesh this out. So I went out on a cycle trip and came back. Then again, like you felt all new, different person, what you're capable of, right? So you have these doubts whether you can do it, whether you can hold your handlebar, and all these things. I really figured out, like these questions are nothing. Like you can still do it, right? So, and after that, the December, um, that's where another I wanted to plan another family trip. I want to take my bike. That's the first time I'm doing it after 4 months of the break. So same again, like your wife is there always. So I took my wife and rest of the family in another car. My mom, dad, my brother, sister, and my kid and my brother's son. They are in the car, and we went on to a very isolated camp spot in near Mangalore, um, near the kind of west coast, and we camped, and then we came back. So the confidence which you get out of your family, that's another thing that is always that's the first thing I start with. So the year that came in after that, 2016, it really changed my entire world before me. So I want to really do something extreme, right? So after this trip, I went on to do SS 2000, which is called Saddle Soar 2000 miles, which is 3,300 kilometers in 48 hours. Because all this, to best of my information and knowledge, by then when I had, people were doing only SS 1000 by then. So I really wanted to push myself beyond that to see what I'm capable of. These are things is nothing to prove the entire world or to whoever the person is, but to prove to yourself and to gain your confidence back. Is that what I really wanted to do? So so whatever I'm still doing, whatever it's for me rather than not to prove to someone else. The endurance is always a slab that you keep stepping up always. That's what I even do. So one of my friend, he joined with me, and we eventually able to do 3,300 kilometers on almost like 43, 44 hours. We went back to Bangalore to Pune, and then to Kanyakumari, and then um, to Ranipet, Krishnagiri, Ranipet, and then back to Bangalore. So this journey actually started up opening up a whole new chapter. All this time, I was never against time, distance, speed. So, so what I figured out is it's good. I'm capable of even doing that. It's only thing is I don't sleep, I don't eat, I never even bother to take any break. But all I can do is I can ride for 43 hours continuously. So with a minimum fuel breaks, it's not about speed. You can still ride with 80, 90 kilometers, but as long as you're on the road, is what it matters. That's the endurance. It's not about speed. That's something that I learned. So out of this trip, so uh, so I figured out a way to break this record, the north to south, in lesser time by not taking the break, but not eating and not sleeping. I started reading more, realizing more. How would a person can survive without having a food? How would a person can survive without sleeping? Is it possible? So these are questions. It actually it started me when I even planning for these trips. I started figuring out a lot of trial and errors. I always used to say biking is just not sitting on the saddle and then raising your accelerator, right? So it's just not that. Just it's not the bike. It's biking for me. Is something is 20% off on the road,
Raising
and
your
rest
courage.
preparing for yourself
Yeah.
to be on the road is what 80% is for me. um, so I was started preparing for more on almost like how to not to sleep, how to survive with power naps of say 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and how to not to eat and survive with liquid foods. So these are things I figured out. I almost like started with half a day, skipping the meal, surviving with liquid foods. Started with 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, and now I can even survive with almost a month without even having a food. I did really experimented it, and I did it as well. So these are things that really helps to keep a benchmark of human survival with what we all thought is eating 3 times a day, sleeping 6 to 8 hours, sleeping in the night time is something is something your mind and the entire world has tuned to do it. And I really want to break the sequence because all these years, almost like 33 years since I was by then I was doing it. I was doing the same thing, sleeping 6 to 8 hours and doing it for 3 times a meal. I really want to break the sequence. You can't break the sequence in one day, but you can break the sequences if you practice it. And that's what I did in terms of getting out to extreme expeditions. So I never slept, and even now my sleep cycle is once in 3 days I sleep. So so
Seriously, you don't sleep at all. What do you mean?
means almost like there's a different cycle I follow. If I want to sleep, say lesser sleep nowadays, not nowadays, it's been so almost like 8 years now. So every third day I have a 6 hours complete sleep, but in between I have sometimes 2 hours, sometimes 3 hours, sometimes 4 hours, and sometimes no sleep. You won't believe. So this is something I because you for me is practice is what you need to if you're targeting say 100% you have to practice 400% to do the 100% on that day. What it means is unless you put yourself on the particular day, uh, uh, you for me it's almost like you can't cheat your mind. Self confidence is different. Overconfidence is different, right? So without even doing something, you can say, well, like I can hit the road, I can do it in say 80 hours, 20 hours. That will something that you can still. Um, okay, so there's a question about like how long you travel. That's what Pratap. I'll answer this question. Like I'm just that's what I'm coming to here. So after this accident, so I started with the the SS 2000 and then followed with the sequence of other records. So the other one was the GQ, the Golden Quadrilateral. So the Golden Quadrilateral was 96 hours by Arnab Gupta, which I really wanted to break this. This is the one. Can you go back? Yeah, this is the one. Sure. So doing this Golden Quadrilateral from I started from a journey from Chennai, Kolkata, Delhi, Mumbai, and Chennai. This is the route. That's almost like 5,958 kilometers, almost 6,000 kilometers. Um, so this was supposed to be done along with Arun Prabhakar, but eventually he couldn't join, where I ended up doing it on my own solo. So uh, it's maybe a consequence. Maybe it is good. Like the same day, May 8th is what I completed in 2016. The Golden Quadrilateral.
I just saw yesterday. Okay,
Yeah.
it so happened we are doing exactly after a few years. Yeah.
Yeah. So what happened is, so we initially planned to do it in March. So due to some reason we couldn't able to do it, and we fixed out to April, and we couldn't do it. And so we initially have to do it in May. So there's a story, another story I really wanted to say. Like, so after doing this SS 2000, I was just get carried away. I would say, like you're something where your mind also have this spoils you, saying that if you're doing it, you get onto sometime overconfidence. And it really happened to me, and I would really see myself like some good things as well. After doing this SS 2000, there was another record for 24 hours. By then, it was 2,127 kilometers. So I thought almost like we were able to do almost like 2,000 kilometers in 24 hours. It's just for another 200 kilometers, we can still able to do it. So I was another ride in 2016, almost in April, April 1st, hitting on the road 24 hours. I want to do 2,200 kilometers. So I set on a trip to Bangalore to Pune, and then to the Baspet and towards almost like Hyderabad, and then come back to just before Hyderabad and come back to Bangalore. So what happened is I went to Pune and then came back. So I was almost 100 plus kilometers every hour. So 15 hours I could able to do almost like nearly 1,550 kilometers. I was heading towards this Bangalore Airport Road. There used to be speed humps. So I couldn't realize in one of the speed humps there was no marking, nothing. It was very bad speed breaker. So eventually my light was not that bright. I rammed on it, and then so I lost control. This was another thing as well, because all this time after this SS 2000, I was just holding my handlebar with my hands raised with just a loose grip of just these two fingers. So whenever you hit hard on something else, my hands came out, the fingers came out. I was like, I have eventually my right hand came out of my handlebar. I was holding on only on the left hand. I couldn't control, stabilize my bike. I had no the option to let go because no the option. So I slowly took off my left hand and I rolled over towards my left side. So that was another bad incident, which also taught me a lot of other things. So one thing is, when you do something, there's a confidence and self confidence and overconfidence. That point of the time, I would say I had overconfidence in me, and also I thought I'm like, I could able to do this. I can also be able to do this. Another thing. So it's the tough lessons I learned. So eventually, my bike got crashed. So some damage because I was geared. There's a lesser impact. There are friends around me who could actually help, and I straight away took my bike, parked, and went back home. Same old story. You have to show your very tough face before you're home, saying that you got injured. So this time, have to accept this is my fault. So again, I was like, these are tough lessons, but not major injuries. It's just lesser, but you learned your lesson. There are some things that you have to let go. That's not for you, and you need to make your mind that as something which is as something. You need to break your mind saying that, okay, this is not for me, I have to let go, and this is something, it's for me, I have to take it, right? That is something I started realizing. I'm like, okay. So after this trip incident, it happened in April 2nd. uh, I had almost like 20 days to even plan for the Golden Quadrilateral. I can't let it go, right? So my bike was in bad shape. I was not in the confidence. So I don't want to get again to the depression point. So what I mean is, whatever it is, I'm going for it. This time I'll be more prepared. I know what's my limits are. So that's where I started the journey towards the Golden Quadrilateral. I got my bike on April 24th, 2016. Again, Karthik, he's a very good friend. So he helped me to make sure to get all the possible um, services of my bike, and usually kept my bike up and running. Just hold a second. Yeah, back. Yeah. So he made sure. So bike is ready. So I had only 6 days to figure out, because I also figured out the light which I was using in my bike, that was less power because I had a very less visibility. I couldn't hold my handlebar properly because of the injury. Because of all these things, I figured out slowly. I almost like recollected why I crashed, and the presence of mind in terms of when you crash, it also makes a difference. I would say every biker have to prepare for a crash. What it means is, even if it doesn't happen in your life, but you will know when you get into such situations how to survive. Even if it is a 0.0001% of survival, you will have to, I would say almost like, you have to prepare for those tough times and crashes you might face one day. And you won't believe, so when I started preparing into bike, and this was also one of my learning in terms of preparing for crash. even if you end up crashing your bike, what is the point? How quickly you can decide, and what are things that you need to do? So exactly, it happened when I crashed my bike. There's a point when I have to let the go by my my bike, take my hands out of it. Eventually, it's a call you need to take in very fraction of seconds, and you need not have to get kind of carried away with all these things happening, right? So, Karthik, are you there?
Yeah, it was something important, so I gave the screen space for you.
Oh, okay, yeah. So that's what. So these things is also a learning for me. I will still strongly recommend preparing your mind for a crash. It makes a lot of difference between survival and losing your life at one point of the time, right? So the best chances is to your mind plays a vital role and really learned. And that moment, it really helped me to, even when you're that almost like that fraction of second, I have to let go of my bike, look out for the landing place, and roll it out. And knowing the fact that I'm also injured, I can't keep my fingers down. I was holding my fingers into my chest. I was rolling down. So these things, the human body have to train. Unless you train yourself, you cannot do it, right? You need to practice it, and that's how it all happened. So the moment I fell, I kept my fingers, and I know like my subconscious might keep telling you more like you're going to fall. You need to keep your hands safe, and that's your valuable thing, right? So these are things that it's a self learning, and preparing for a crash is something that it really helps to survive, and the difference between surviving and not surviving. So that really helped me. So
But how do you
uh,
actually prepare for a crash, Balaji? You told you have trained yourself. Is it about just thinking and thinking about it again, or you do something physical also to prepare yourself for a crash? How did you do that?
everything comes with keeping your mind very peaceful, because if your mind is not peaceful, and if you can't take a decision at a very quick fraction of second, the difference is that's where it lies, right? So the point here is keeping your mind calm. You can't do it just for sake of doing it a biking or any other things. That comes naturally how you train. These are, I would say, like 100 small bits and pieces, like your pixels in your TV, which gives you a better clean picture when all these thousands and lakhs of pixels put into a into a big screen, right? That's where your mind as well. So training your mind it involves everything. So I used to train just for an example, I just told like giving a live meditation, which I used to do, keeping yourself confident and where to, how to, and all these questions you should have an answer to it. What happens if you crash? What happens even if you crash? And we're like, what do you need to do it? uh, so these are subconscious minds that you need to start preparing, asking your question, right? So I used to prepare a kind of a mind mapping before any trips, put almost like all the questions in one side, have all the possible answers to one side, and what hips and butts to everything. So you get to prepare your mind, knowing the fact and making your mind realizing what is true and what is not true, and how you can prepare. So mm, I would say preparing virtually and also going through and reading through all these things will really help. But all this thing is bottom line is keeping your mind peaceful. That's where you can take a proper decision at proper point. I would say,
Otherwise, it
Aman, like
won't work.
sometimes what happens is why don't you why can't you take a proper decision? Because one thing is you don't know, or your knowledge is not that much into the extent of understanding what it is, or you're not aware of. But when you're aware of, when you know, Omar, like these things are going to be part of your biking expeditions, accepting these things will make you a better person and better biker. And I would say it really helps to even be a better person in your daily life, asking these questions to you, right? So that's what I started learning myself. It's all self-learning. I'm not sure like it helps to someone else or not, but it really helping me to be a better person. That's how it is.
Okay, one more thing probably I want you to share with all of these people here for
Yeah,
listening to you. I still remember a couple of years back when we met in Bangalore, somewhere near HSR, exactly in Salarpuria Satwa.
yeah,
You know why I called you for.
yeah,
Okay, so that time I was asking you during this K to pay 61 hours you have finished, and
yeah,
you are reducing on your food and sleep. Okay,
yeah,
these are
yeah,
these are assumed to be the basic things which drives life. Okay, so and you had cut down on that to maintain the timing. I
yeah.
asked you what gives you the energy in between. You gave an answer. I don't know if you quite remember it, and that is something I'll never forget. Do you remember that answer?
um I don't know, probably you can help me
Something that
out.
happens in the petrol bunks.
Yeah, see, in fuel stations, see, the any trips when you're on a solo, right? You need to share your smile with other people. That's the driving force which I see, right? So, no matter what it is, no matter what you have, but the point of giving to the other person, and if that brings a smile to them, that's what it takes you another 200-mile journey. It's not the fuel that it has to take your journey for another 200 miles, right? So I tend to do, because when I travel solo, right, there's always someone like you need to share smile with other people, because fuel station guys who fills fuel every car, thousands of cars, vehicles every time, right? You never know, like, so you're going to share that maybe a 30 seconds with them. You may not look back or come back to see them ever, but there are instances in which people still remember when I went back to the same fuel station, they could recollect me. That's the something that it's really, the 30 seconds, if someone could still remember, that's something. It's just sharing a world with the other people, right? So what usually I do is, whenever the moment I share fuel, the fuel, it just I take like couple of minutes to fuel it, fill my fuel bills, take a snapshot and leave. In between, I drink ORS water and also have some dry fruits. While having the dry fruits, I'll also share some to the fuel station guys. The smile and the things that if some will take and some will don't. So that doesn't matter as long as you give, and the smile that we share with them, it's the happiness that drives you for another 200 kilometers. I have a point of say stopping 200 to 220 kilometers every for fuel station, and whenever I cross kids on the road, school time, any on the things, right? Show your hands, share a smile with them, even when you're on say expeditions. That doesn't matter, right? You're not running for the time, you're running your journey on the road. People you come across, not like even for a second, sharing a smile, it makes a lot of difference for me, and that's something that I really do whenever I hit on the road. So these are small secrets. So that's the driving force.
This something I'll never forget, Balaji, because the way you said, I think we had the conversation that time in Tamil. You
Yeah,
said, okay, அந்த ஒரு சிரிப்பு இன்னொரு அடுத்த 500 கிலோமீட்டர் என்னை கொண்டு போய் விட்டுரும். That's exactly what you said.
yeah, it's true. So because these are sometimes you get some hundreds of questions saying that why I'm doing it, is it worth it, um chasing this time distance, is it really worth it? These are questions I initially had. When I started figuring out how to get out of these questions, these are the answers that I found out. Don't think about it, think what is there behind around you, live that moment. So these are things that really helped me uh, to share, smile, and be with the journey, and still you achieve the distance. You, one thing for sure that you know, as long as you are there on the road, as long as you're on the saddle, what are the distances, you know, you're going to achieve it. So there's no point of looking at the time, looking at the odometer, that I'm just out of the numbers. I'll not look into the numbers. I'm not the number guy. For me, it's just hitting on the road, ride as much as I can. So, so for me, time is between sunset, sunrise, and again sunset. Yeah,
Simplest way to measure time, right?
yeah.
See,
So with this
actually, life, everything is not measurable.
yeah, so this Golden Quadrilateral ride, which I done in 2015, so 16, which I just just sharing this. Yeah. So what happened is this 2015. Let me know if it is still wobbling. I can adjust. Give me a second. I'm not
That's
taking
okay.
too much time. I'm
Take
not
your
taking
time.
too
Take
much.
your time. Hmm.
I'm not taking too much time, right, Karthik? Let me know if you have any scheduled time for this.
See,
I can block
there's
out of.
nothing called a schedule, Balaji. In fact, I want to make a small note here for all of
Okay.
the people who are watching. I don't know how many people you have invited or watching, or how many people from my channel are watching this. But when I started Hornbill Studios, okay,
Yeah.
this YouTube channel, if you see the first video that I put is the 75 days expedition of Peter on in Himalayas. Okay, that's the
Yeah.
first video. And for me, it was always sharing my experiences and experiences of people around that. That's a driving force behind starting Hornbill Studios. And that's why the name Hornbill, because that's a bird. You have to actually watch that bird. Okay, it gives an experience. I'll share that on another session about hornbills. So it's about sharing experiences that Hornbill Studio should stand for. Though I do a lot of technical sessions, reviews, everything in this channel, finally, it is my experience or somebody's experience and presenting. In the last few days, you would have seen me interviewing so many photographers, street photographers, wedding photographers. They were all
Yeah.
sharing their experiences. So even if I'm talking about something, say in 8 o'clock, I have 9 o'clock, I have another session with some photographers from Sri Lanka, Jaffna. Okay,
Okay.
so there also I'm just sharing my experience. I don't read a manual or a specification and then tell it in YouTube. I could be making a few mistakes. It doesn't matter. I'm just sharing with the world what I experienced. And see, you could have been talking about 1,000 technical things on how to maintain a bike, how to prepare a bike for a expedition and things like that. But you chose to share your experience with your family, how they supported you, your experience in the petrol pump and things like that, which actually matters more than what bike you choose, how you ride, your technicalities and things like that. And this is the whole reason I'm having this YouTube channel. I don't care how many subscribers are going to come and subscribe. Though I ask for subscription just to increase this community of people who care for such things. Okay, I don't. I'm not a person who goes by numbers. Okay, I think so. I think that's where we gel with each other. So don't worry about time. This is almost like your another ride. Don't even keep a tab on the things like that. As long as people who are watching this enjoy, I think I'm really happy. But if you have, let me know what are things you have to share, because there are a lot of questions which have come up. I think we should answer them too.
Sure. I guess I've spoken a lot about like how do I prepare and what are things that makes really difference in my life and how do I ride. I haven't gone into deep dive into the ride which I did. Um, it's something I really quickly go through these rides so that it really helps, and then probably we can take up the questions if that is okay.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
can take the questions. You want to take questions or you want to talk about the rights, Balaji? It's your decision. Whatever you feel like, just go
We
with
can
the
take
feel.
Oh, okay, we can take the questions. Probably these questions will also have the same things what I wanted to talk about it as well.
Okay,
Let's
so
see.
so
Yeah,
as a part of the question, you can talk about the rights too. Yeah, I think these questions will have, right. So
yeah,
let me come one question by another. Okay, we have a lot of wishes and well wishers. வாழ்த்துக்கள்லாம் நிறைய வந்திருக்கு. Okay, so Satish is asking about your K to K record set.
Oh, okay, that's nice. So after this Golden Quadrilateral, which I did in 89 hours, so I was on a series of records which I wanted to do. The same year, 2016. So September, that's where all the lay off season gets into, and October, before October, that's why I just want to get into these schedules. So preparing any rides, right? So it depends of planning in detail. So I used to put a lot of efforts in terms of preparing for any ride. Preparation dates back to few years of, like, this is a similar screenshot. This is for the Trans-Himalayan, but I used to prepare in the same way. So what happens is I used to have 200 kilometers breakup distance, and the Google time of how much time it takes in Google if I travel in day, if I travel in night, if I travel in weekend, weekday. So I used to keep watching. I used to break this 200 kilometers, um, update in the map. So whenever I get some time, right, on a daily basis, I used to keep tracking of timing. What happens if I travel this distance at this point of time, weekend, weekdays? I used to take average of these times. On a separate note, uh, these are calculations I used to do, part of preparations. So I will figure out these are the times, best times to travel, hit the cities, cross the cities, major cities, how to work on the major cities, night, day, weekend, weekday, all these things I figure out, and then I choose a date for a particular trip. So that's why I for all my trips. So for K2K, when I planned after this GQ Golden Quadrilateral, which I did in 89 hours, so I could able to figure out more learnings that came into the ride. And considering these are terrains which is difficult, the from Leh to Manali, and Manali to almost like Chandigarh, and after that it's all highway. So the best time to start is something that you need to figure out. So I figured out that this entire stretch, which was by then, which was uh, 78 hours, which was Arnab Gupta's record, I wanted to break it down to as much as less possible. So my target is to do is less than 65 hours. So uh, as you know, like, I never used to sleep, I used to have food. So these are things I keep constantly working on. So I stepped on to Leh to Kanyakumari trip, went solo, did my own time when I started from Delhi. I packed my bike to from Bangalore to Delhi, took a flight, and then took my bike from Delhi to Leh. I took my own time because I don't rush before the trip. I would make sure that I sleep as much as I can. No matter what, how many hours you sleep, the preparations are. I make sure that the 30 days before the trip, I keep everything aside, keep all the social media away from me, all distractions away from me. I pull out myself from all WhatsApp group, everything, keep all the distractions away, and I sleep 8 hours continuously for the 30 days. That's the cycle I follow. And also, as you know, that your body has practiced a lot of things with having food. I used to follow a U curve. U curve means for it applies to your sleep, because the sleep takes a upper U curve. So what it means is all these days you will have a 3 day cycle of sleeping the third day to 6 hours to 8 hours, in between no sleep or 2 hours, 4 hours. But the last 30 days you will constantly sleep up to 8 hours every day, resting your mind to a peaceful state. So that takes an upper curve, a flat curve maybe, and the food and your other things, whatever your intake, that takes a deep down U curve. What it means is I stick to liquid diet, to the dry fruits diets, and completely out of the solid foods. The reason why I used to completely out of solid foods is it would look like very funny, but when you start preparing to these trips, right, you get to know about it. So when I was preparing for this Golden Quadrilateral, that's what it happens. How to keep your nature calls away when you're on the ride. So it looks very funny, but that really makes a lot of difference. How much time you spend on your bike, this also matters a lot. So what it means is, as much as you dump a solid food, the next day morning you need to look out for restrooms and then go for it. You waste for half an hour. That's a very valuable time when you're running for a time distance trip. So I really wanted to cut down the all the solid waste which I want to get out of my body. So what it means is survive with liquid foods. Can a human body survive with liquid foods? So that's why I train myself. The 15 almost like 15 days before the trip, strictly into solid out of the solid foods and to liquid diet. ORS, any liquid juice or dry fruits, strictly follow it. You can't just strictly jump into the solid foods. You need to practice it. You start with say 50% of your food, 100 to you gradually reduce and 20%, and just 2 weeks before the trip you nullify it and you stick to the solid foods. And slowly after the trip you gradually scale up, because after the trip you can't suddenly have everything, right? So you slowly scale up. That's almost a cycle of say, I would say 90 days of any trip that you start to end. That's in between the bottom of the curve. That's where your trip lies. So I was into this strict so liquid diets. I was into Leh, and I was preparing for this Leh to Kanyakumari. I was all alone. I was like, so I know, like, for me, it's just hitting the road. No matter what it is, no matter what it is, as long as I'm sitting on the bike, I know, like, I'm able to do it. Knowing that I've previously done the same route a couple of times, I know what it takes, what are the places where I need to be more cautious of. So I went to Leh. I was supposed to start, say, today. Next day morning, I was prepared. So I went to sleep. For some reason, I had a very bad dream. I couldn't have a proper sleep. So the next day morning, around at 4:35 morning, I woke up. I was supposed to leave on that day, but actually, I made my mind. I was like, "There's no one pushing you to do it today, right? So it is always next day to do it." So by saying this, I slept. One other thing is I'm pretty much get used to the AMS problem because I don't you otherwise even eat solid foods. I used to survive with pure fruits there and then liquid diet. So I slept for 30 hours continuously before the Leh to Kanyakumari trip. So
That's how you covered your sleep.
yeah, so it all matters, you know. Like, so the end of the day, you're not going to do anything. Your body needs a rest. What are you going to do? Waking up, roaming around, coming back, and then saying that I'm prepared and I'm going to do tomorrow. All you need to do is you have one goal, one target, one day to do it, and you have to be prepared. You have to let go rest of the things from your unwanted things. So I slept for 30 hours before my K2K trip, and I was uh, next day I woke up. The following day, I was pretty much fresh. I know, like, this is my day. I'm going to do it. Simple as that. There's no second thought. So whenever I get a second thought, and if I'm not sure, I don't proceed after that. There's no process after that. It stops there. You hold, and then you go to the next point. Just before the trip, I was 5:30, almost like 5 o'clock. I was get ready. I was like ready. I took a bath and then I was took a bike. Honda CBR. It is. There's a Indian Oil fuel station, PNB petrol pump, PNB ATM. That's why I took a slip. That's how it usually works. You start and end time. It depends on your electronic receipt from where you start and your GPS track records. It's not that that you plan it, because everything is being tracked and all my records or whatever I do, it's all live tracking. That's what it is. So I take a ATM receipt and switch on the GPS, start the tracking. Just switching on the GPS, I called up my wife and said, "Oh, like I'm going to start. I feel I'm looking positive and I'm going to do it." I asked her, I was like, "What are we going to do?" She was there by then in Trivandrum, and I'm like, "I'm hitting Kanyakumari. Trivandrum is not far away from Trivandrum." So I told her, like, so I'm going to reach exactly in say around 65 hours. Once I'm done, we straight away we're going to a movie. So I was So that's the longest journey for a movie for me.
Going to a theater in
Yeah.
Trivandrum from Leh.
Late to Kanyakumari and then Trivandrum to a movie. So, so these are small things that you need to spice up in your travel to make things value to people and around it as well. The laugh that you share before your trip, that really it took me almost like 3,800 kilometers to the movies, right. So these are things that it eases out your pressure, whatever you think, and you tend to think of these things and give a smile for yourself in your tough times, and then take your ride, right? So literally it happened. So like we watched Shiv Karthikeyan's movie straight from Kanyakumari. So so that's the journey. So we started I started my journey. So I had a break of as I just showed you the tabular column, right? So the the point from Leh to this is for the Trans-Himalayan, but it's a similar table which I used to share. So from the journey from Leh to Sachu and then to Manali. So my target was to do it in 12 hours. I started in 6 o'clock in the morning. I reached Sachu in say around uh, less than 5 hours, and then in almost like in Manali in less than 11 hours. So the moment I cross Manali, I know almost like rest of the journey, I'm going to do it because the challenge is uncertainty in this distance, roadblock, and all these things. It matters a lot. If someone crosses this distance, and rest of the journey is definitely it's possible. That's what you could say, right? So I was there, and even crossing Chandigarh, it's all heavy traffic, at all broken roads and all this thing. By then, in 2016, the roads were not that good. So the journey was pretty good, and I have to cross Delhi before the next day sunrise. That's my target. As I usually mention, right? Sunrise, sunset. So sunrise Leh, sunset Manali, sunrise Delhi. Again, sun probably sunset in Nagpur and sunrise Bangalore. That was my plan. And sunset in Kanyakumari. No time, no water meter, nothing. So I was crossing Delhi. There was one guy. I just before the trip, I just posted in the group saying I'm going to do this. This is what my plan is. And there are a few people who tried to reach out to me. There's one guy I was crossing nearing the Delhi. There's one guy in the car. A couple of people were showing hands. I thought I was like, why are the people are following me and showing the hands? I was like, I thought maybe someone who is wanted to say something. I stopped for a second. Eventually, I get to know that these people are someone who Rohit Chopra, and who is actually reached out to me over Facebook. It's very such a lovely people. They had some water and some sandwiches to me to give it, so that they realizing that I wouldn't have anything on the way. Actually, I didn't. I ran out of water by then. I never had water. I was looking out for water to stop to somewhere get some water, but this happened exactly at the right time. And there's one of the picture I would also shared with you, sitting with two people at the ground with the reflector jackets. So these are people who actually helped me at the right point. So I took a quick one bite of sandwich and then drank the water. And these are people, yeah. Still remember, and always I'm like feel very thankful for these people. So this was around at 3 o'clock, just before Delhi. So I crossed Delhi, and then I was in Mathura around at 6:30. So I thought of taking a power nap, but I felt like I'm fine. Then I was heading towards Nagpur. By then the roads were pretty bad. It's not that great in the Sioni Ghat sections. There's one probably a photo which has this water in the road, off-road type. Probably you can show that, Karthik. That's the road NH, so-called NH, the National Highway, the Sioni Ghat section by then. But now you have a very beautiful roads, Sioni Ghat section. So there were big potholes in Adilabad sections. So I could able to cross, come to Hyderabad around. This is the Sony Ghat section by then in 2016, and this is the so-called national highway that's part of the 2016 Leh to Kanyakumari, which is the same picture I took in 2016 when I'm doing it Leh to Kanyakumari. So I reached Hyderabad and was whistling. And I want to say from Lalitpur to Hyderabad, it was raining by then. It was drizzling on and off, on and off, on and off continuously. So that kept me awake. I never slept. So crossing Hyderabad day 2, I never slept. And I reached Bangalore around the following day around at 12 o'clock. And just before crossing Hyderabad, I thought, oh, I'll take a power nap. I took a 1 hour, 20 minutes power nap, a quick power nap in a fuel station, and then I was hitting on the road. I know that I can't stay awake on the third day without any sleep. I really wanted to cross Kanyakumari before sunset. That's my plan, as I kept saying, right? So eventually, I reached Kanyakumari at around 8 o'clock. It was 61 hours from Leh to Kanyakumari. So it's non-stop apart from this 1 hour break which I took. Again, almost like if you look at the speed which I was traveling until I reached Hyderabad, my speed was not even 100. Not even 100. So that was even still there in the GPS track. It is all recorded. I have already shared in my social media accounts that whoever wanted to just see, they can also download the track and then see all the speeds, distance, and everything there. It is all there. So after crossing Hyderabad, that's when I picked up the highway. But until then, my speed was not even 100. So yeah, so if you can look at these these are the screenshot of my GPS along with fuel bills which I used to share. So the point here is it's not about speed; it's about endurance. It's about staying on the road and staying safe. The uh, the point when I reached Kanyakumari, I felt really what felt really good, and because I also remember people would, I'm not sure, it's the same day when the demonetization was announced and ATMs were filled with queue. So yeah, so
Number 8, I guess.
yeah, I need to wait, because of which I lost from 15 minutes or so. So it's all these things. It's all it's interesting facts. It keeps you reminding of the past, right? So that's a very good memory of K2K. Satish, I hope I've responded to your question.
Yeah. So there are some wishes. I'll just scroll through quickly. So
Yeah,
okay, so probably some of the questions you can answer quickly,
yeah,
because Hemachandran has asked you something. Hi Balaji, this is Hemachandran. It is really great pleasure to ride with you so many times. What happened to the Trans Himalayan Odyssey? If it's still there, I'm interested to be a part of it. That's a
yeah.
request to you.
Yeah, it is supposed to happen now because we were planning for a Trans-Himalayan expedition, which I did along with Vinod way back in 2017. That we did it in almost like around 5,500 kilometers in 9 days. That's from Leh to Arunachal Pradesh through Nepal and Bhutan, which we planned to do some this year, but eventually for all these developments, we have to postpone it indefinitely. But probably hope things will get up next year, and we'll have a probably we'll do it next year, or probably 2021 or 2022. I'm not very sure because now the regulations in Bhutan have as well as changed. Earlier, you can even but now they have, you need to pay a lot of money in terms of daily, as well as you need to take the the guide along with you, and there are a lot of other regulations that can. So that doesn't stop us to traveling. So, but still, we'll do it in 2021 or 2022. Thanks, Ames, for being, and I really miss riding with you as well. We'll surely catch up, not for the Himalayan Odyssey, at least for another trip for sure.
So, small note from Satish on your CBR.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So it's actually almost 6 months since I actually touched my even saw my bike. So November 19th, I left my bike with a small mishap after coming from office. I had a small ligament tear. I have to eventually park my bike, give it for service. November 19, 2019 is where I left my bike. Today is the very good day. I took my bike back home. It's not
So,
that it's the time taken to service it. I really want to let go my bike because it's a ligament tear. I know, like if my bike is there, I can't see, can't avoid riding a bike because I know like ligament tear really takes some time to get cured. You need to really stay away and let go something. And this is also, even if you love so much about biking and getting onto a bike, some point you need to stay away with so that at the rest of the life you can ride the bike. So this 6 months, it's for that. And I feel really happy. And it's good.
looks like the date chosen today has a lot of significance in your life.
Yes. Yeah,
So,
that's why when you asked me that whether we can schedule it today, that's why I was just thinking, I'm like, yeah. So
yesterday I saw your Facebook share also. Yeah. So, Auto Freak has some visual hello, whatever, some happy note, I guess.
thank you.
So, from Manoj Kumar. Hari Shankar, he's a photographer. He's asking, what's your favorite place in Tamil Nadu? I don't know if you want to answer that.
Um, there's no such favorite place I would call, but Karthik, you can show some few pictures of my camping, which I also do, which actually keeps me wherever you go, right? So the environment around you and the places are still, it's good as long as how you see the rest of the world. And this is one of the places I used to camp. I take my kid, I take my family. So we used to park our car, we camp. So we take everything with us. We cook food. We stay there overnight, irrespective of whatever happens to the rest of the world. We'll still be there, doing all for us. And not only kind of gives a different feel to yourself, and also it makes a very vital thing for my son and my family as well to make sure they also see the world as is rather than getting onto the luxury, getting onto it. We even sleep with a tarpaulin mat or wherever you want to. This is one such place we would even go. So similar to this, we choose a place wherever it's very remote, out of the human nuisance. All these places are very good for me. It's not one specific place, but I would like to go to Kodaikanal where we used to camp quite a few times. So that I will still say it's one of my best spots as well.
Cool.
Yeah.
So, Wet Satish Kumar, how many kilometers you have traveled in bike? Do you remember it?
That probably maybe more than 2.2, more than 2.5 lakhs, I say, because now my CBR is 1 lakh 18,000, I believe. And my
Ari.
the RE was almost like 1 lakh kilometers, around 2 plus lakh. But eventually, you can't take your son and family in your car, right? In your bike, right? So we also share my equal other kilometers in car. So wherever I take my family along with gears, it's mostly with car.
So,
Yeah.
looks like it's the same amount of kilometers I would have clocked in a bike, just that my trips were very short. So,
Yeah, that's nice.
okay, this is something from, it's a personal note, I guess, from Harish Rito. So, a lot of people found it encouraging. So, yeah, these are some statements, and
Thanks.
more than a question, people were responding to you in a when they were probably sharing the similar experience they were sharing with.
It's nice to virtually see and then spending your valuable times looking at this conversations because giving a time to someone else is really a key. and it's so valuable to me as well. And giving you almost like 1 hour 45 minutes, or even if you're still listening for 5 minutes, it's just such a valuable time. I really appreciate. I'm very thankful for you, whoever is listening to it,
Yeah,
and whoever will
certainly.
listen after this recorded as well. Yeah.
So, Pratap Babu, okay, I think you have to reply to this. I'm very happy to come and shoot uh, your experience on Cake to K and other records. How do you manage it? Probably most of it, I think we covered in this live session.
Yeah.
But maybe if we have to meet, I think we can make a nice video and I can post it. I'll be very happy to post it on my YouTube. So,
Sure.
yeah.
I'm not sure I've done some justice of taking as much as time as you say, but still I really happy to share as however I am, and however whatever I felt. But always I wanted to share something is whatever I learned, that I wanted to give it back to people, and people looking at these expeditions, right? And sometimes I would also get a call from people saying that, okay, how do I do it? And I will never say no to them, but only thing is I would guide them in terms of how they can do it. I don't mind if someone is breaking my record. I really will feel happy if someone is breaking my record. And eventually, if you look at the people who have done it right recently, and I'm still in touch with them, and also I used to probably tell them, "Oh, like these are places I've made some errors, and probably if you look into this thing, and probably you may not do this, and you will have even more better possibility to achieve this." So these are things that I always used to spend some time with who were interested. So people watching here, right? So, and if you still have anything that you wanted to hear from me, or if you were planning something, if you want any guidance, please always feel free to reach back to me. I will never say no, but only thing is weekdays I won't be available, but only thing is I will be available on weekends. You can just give me a ping. I'll be happy to answer your questions anytime as well.
I guess you can reach Balaji easily on his Instagram, Live Ride Explore. So he rarely shares some pictures, but it's enjoyable. But maybe, see, I don't know. A lot of people may be watching this video after this live session. So those people can get in touch with Balaji Mohan. He's really happy to meet new people and share his experiences. So maybe you can use his Instagram handle and follow him. So that's something I want to say from my side. So going to the next comment, I think Divi, yeah, Yadav had a lot of comments. So and one more question, yeah. After your accident, how many records you broke?
All my records are after the accident. So
That's the spirit. Your answer done in few words. I don't think
it's
I have anything more to ask from you on this. Yeah.
see, sometimes these accidents are more like what I learned is what happens in your life, it is for the purpose, and it happens for a purpose. That's what I did realize. Regretting about something happened to you, or a kind of feeling very guilty about whatever it's happened, right? That doesn't change anything in your life. But what will change is how you proceed after that. What's your next step after that is what will definitely change your life. That's what I learned from there on. So I still see whatever happened to me as a positive sign. I'll never see, I'm like, oh, something happened to me. What will I do? I'm like, that's not the way I look at things. Whatever happens for good. Just for a reason, and it happens for good, and you learn from it, and you proceed what's next to you. And this happened is for a reason, and that's how it changed me. So I'm really happy about it, and no regrets of losing some part of your body.
So லிஸ்ட்ல ஏதாவது விட்டாரா அப்படின்னு கேக்குறாரு.
Yeah, still I have a kind of say fastest around the world, that which I planned to do in less than 80 days, which initially I planned. Still and fastest around India, across India, to do it in 16 days, 16,000 kilometers. So these things are still there. For some reason, it's I couldn't able to do it last year, for last 2 years. Still in there, the bucket list, the top of the list. Whenever I get a proper space, these two things are definitely there. But as I said, age is nothing to do with your ambition, your passion, and whatever you wanted to do. Even when I said I'm like I started my actual biking of traveling, it's almost like after 30. So um, there's no kind of old or young in this. So I feel happy, but even not this year, next year, or even say 5 years after, I'll still be happy to do it. These two records, sometime, someday, will definitely be there on the cards.
So yeah, that's another thing. So share some of the key points, do's and don'ts, and also some of the safety measures to be followed as a rider. I
Yeah,
think,
it's
yeah.
a very good question. As I mentioned, right, safety. It's not only it's what you wear. Obviously, if someone hitting on the road, wear a proper helmet and riding gears, even a boot. It makes a lot of difference. And proper gloves. No compromises in terms of safety gears. So even if you're going out for a short ride, it's better to wear a proper gears. Even if you're heading on the road. Until now, I never took my bike without my helmet. So not as a pillion, I never used to ride without the helmet. So these are small things that you get to practice yourself, and whenever you're hitting for any trip, right? So safety, it's not only wearing the gears, also knowing your bike. If something screws up in your bike, it might also jamming your brake, or even it might also, even if you have a fall, these are also safety measures. So knowing about your bike, wearing a proper gear, and knowing where you're going to, and knowing where you're heading to, night, day, and all these things is part of your safety measures. So tips is know things, be aware of. If you're not aware of your bike, be aware of. If you're not aware of where you're heading to, prepare yourself to it. And and make sure that your safety gears are appropriate when you hit the road, and your bike is probably in a very best condition when you're hitting on the road. Say if you have a half 50% worn out tire, if you're not sure, and won't spend say $2,000 extra, don't give it a chance of say compromising with this. Change it, and change it the same point. Even if you run it for 2,000 kilometers more, that's not going to make any difference. The 2,000 kilometers might, in between these 2,000 kilometers, you might have a fall that might even have more worse than effect. So in terms of safety, don't make any compromise. Change it if there's any spares that needs to be changed on your bike, and that really helps in terms of being yourself safe. And also keep your surroundings informed of where you're heading to, and keep your kind of emergency numbers available. These things that makes you build up your confidence, also enhance your safety in terms of it. In terms of the safety, I also make another point in terms of mind body game. The mind body game is something that which wins. It is always a different ball game, right? So whenever you feel sleepy on the trip, I never used to get a second chance. The moment you feel sleepy, stop your car, stop your bike, take a power nap, refresh yourself, and then hit the ride. Again, if you 1 hour after or half an hour, if you feel sleepy, no matter what it is, don't push yourself, because I would see people sleeping on the bike, people sleeping while driving, and they lose control, and that's where more accident also happens. So no second thoughts, take power naps, get used to it, park yourself anywhere, take a power naps and hit the road. And you will get refreshed, and you'll be safe. So these are small tips that I would even suggest, and get out of this social media distractions, taking too many pictures, um, taking video on driving with one hand, two hands, and all these things, right? So these are even a smaller 1% of chances of putting you in risk. Don't do this. So that's where nullifying the risk factor is what something that I would really encourage, and I would suggest people to just follow. Um, so I'm not a
So
big experienced guy. It's something which I've learned. I'm just sharing. Yeah.
Next question is from Dinesh. I think you have already told, but maybe you would like to answer in a small way. How much speed you are maintaining on the highway while
Yeah.
doing all these trips? Maybe that's what he means.
Yeah. So, Dinesh, as I mentioned, it's not about the speed. So, if you put a distance in your Google Map, a Google Map will throws out a result. It says, okay, you can do it and say in say 6 minutes or 7 minutes or even 10 minutes, whatever the distance is, right? How does the Google Map works? The Google Map works in a way it takes up the maximum permitted speed in that highway, and then it calculates it, the distance. That's how it works actually. So it's not that how much speed when you fix up these distance. My calculation is the same way. So I fix up. I don't fix up into odometer. I don't fix up into the distance. All I do is just holding a throttle. You will know what is your comfortable speed limit. It could be either off road, it could be different broken roads, or it could be flat highways. You can't go beyond your limit. You have to trust your mind. I don't, as I mentioned, I don't see the numbers at all, but to best of my understanding, my comfortable speed is between 90 to 110 to the maximum I would go, or to maximum say 120 to the maximum. I'm saying more like you can't hold 120 all day, but the 120 can be your spike for 30 seconds, 1 minute, but not beyond that. If you're holding it, you're not doing a sensible ride on the road. So the spike is to make sure that you have that your heartbeat goes into spike, right? It's similar to this. It's just to give the spike energy so that you have the concentration back. You go to the spike and come back to settle down. So 90-100 is something that I would still say on a clear highway with no people on the road and no disturbance. And if you're riding on the highway, people on the road in the city, I would even ride as anybody in the road, say 60, 70, or even lesser than that. At some point, even I've just followed Scooty or even active on the road. So there's no point in pushing, going behind time and speed and distance. So whenever I cross cities, I take it as however a normal city commuter are crossing, and I take it in the same way. So I know the time when you're crossing the city, even if you're losing say half an hour, you by any chance you will have to lose this half an hour. The time between how much close calls you take by crossing all these things, it's unwanted that the pressure that you puts into your mind, because that will, when your mind and brain thinks too much, and it actually drains your body as well. So you will get drowsy, you will get sleep. So for me is my mind have to be relaxed. So it have to be relaxed. I don't want to push myself too hard. So simple as that. So I keep yourself at the comfortable level, and I keep myself at the comfortable level so that I don't want to think unwanted things and push my brain to drain things and then go to sleep more. So that's how it works.
Next, Ramu has a question. Hi, bro. Really very happy to have got introduced to you. One of the most down to earth person I've met. Keep riding long and all the best for your future. Okay, that's a wish to you. I think
Ramu,
lot of following for you.
uh, Ramu, it's another one of my, I would say, very down to earth person. So, uh, so we actually get introduced in one of the rides. We did largest Kanyakumari to Kanyakumari ride. So happy to ride with him. I also learned quite a lot of other things from him. So it's just happy to get introduced to the biking community and also see such wonderful people around you. Um, so these are people that actually motivates and keep driving you to be in this community and do right. Is Ramu is one such person I always admire, uh, and probably I take few leaves from him as well. So such a nice sharing a ride with you, Ramu, and I always like love to ride with you as well.
Manoj Kumar has a question. Hi Balaji Anna. Is it possible to visit Umlingla Pass?
Pass.
If it is possible, where we can get the permit?
Yeah, to best of my knowledge, Umingla Pass is restricted as on date because when initially the BRO has opened up, there were few people who did Umingla Pass, but after that it was closed for civilians. But as on date, to best of my knowledge, I might be wrong. To whatever understanding I was given to me, to whatever I read, it is restricted and no civilians are permitted. Um, I'm very sorry if my version is wrong. If some developments are there, probably please do help me out to understand in a better way as well. Thanks.
That's great. Wish for you again. So there is some love from Odisha.
Oh,
So next
thanks.
coming lovely next. Hi Balaji, kudos to your accomplishments. Can you share your experience about your east-west expedition, challenges on this particular route, etc.?
Yeah. So east to west is always a very close to heart expedition because the people I met and the people's perceptions towards ride, the way they were, the warmthness they given to me in terms of which I never experienced before. I until then I used to share my trips with a very close group, or even I don't go online, share pictures, interact with many people on the trip. So I was not that such person before this east to west trip. So I parcel my bike from Bangalore to Kolkata, and then so through Facebook I got introduced to quite a few people, like a very good friend like Pradeep and a lot of other people from Asansol. So these are, and a lot of people like say from east to west is, I could say, I was like, it's just the people around in India so good. I was like, they're down to earth. It's just, but we have failing to understand people. You were trying to leave the virtual world, not getting connected with the people. This trip, it changed the perception what I had before. So Vishali ma'am is one of such very good person. Visually, she helped me to uh, plan this entire trip and help me to get some assistance through this entire distance from east to west. When I say east to west, is Arunachal through to middle part of India and to Gujarat. So east to west, yeah, um, uh, Karthik, you can share the map that is the east to west, the Garmin map which I shared with you. This is the one. So there's a difference here. The east to west actual route map which shared by Limca is the same route what you see it in the map. These are very tough roads which breaks your bones to the rock bottom level. So I would say many parts of in the middle India doesn't even has the proper roads. So the same. So I parceled my bike and I took my own sweet time to reach Arunachal Pradesh to Tezu. Um, so I really earned very good friends. Chetan, who lives in the northeast. I did stayed in their place. Chetan's mom and dad were very kind enough to let me to stay in their home for one day, and the paratas and pickle that even I remember now. So it's about connecting the people about this ride. So this trip, I know it's going to be difficult, and most part of this terrain, which I never even done it before. So I went to Tezu, and then I started my journey towards the Gujarat. The previous best was around 68 hours, 68, 69, I believe. So I had a very tough, challenging time. So I crossing the Bihar and all, it's very different ball game. So I started from Tezu. The other, this trip also made me realize one other thing. So what happened is when I started my trip, I took a ATM picture, a photo, and then I uploaded in my Garmin GPS live upload. I turned on my GPS. I used both two GPS track records. One is to live sharing, and other one is the Garmin GPS. That's a live link which I use it locally in my tank bag, which I keep it. The photos which you see, and the other one which is the live link, which people also track me live whenever I'm on the road. For some reason, the Spotwalla link it didn't work. I really don't know. For some bug, it stopped working the moment I started from Tezu. But the Garmin map which I have in the GPS track, which was tracking my entire trip. I have a very good habit of this the same which I completed in 66 hours. I would say it's a very good habit to turn off your phone, keep it in your tank bag side, and don't even look until you're done. So I keep saying, I'm like, until you're done, don't get distracted with anything else. So I kept my phone charging. I kept my saddle in the tank bag. I kept my GPS on the bike. So when I stop fuel, I take the fuel sheet, and then I used to take along with odometer and GPS and the fuel receipt as a picture for evidences. So I started. I didn't even realize my the Spotwalla link GPS doesn't work. It didn't work. The people were they never had any clue of where I'm. So I said I was like, I'll do it in say 65 to 66 hours is what my target is. Day one gone. I crossed Purnia near Bihar, and I was heading to into Bihar. It was never before. Bihar was my kind of that stretch was my first experience into Bihar. So it was midnight. I didn't see any people around, and then the next day morning I was still riding. So people are all. It's a very narrow roads. It's not even highway. I would call. It's not four lanes that what you see it in southern part of India. So with very narrow roads, people were even sleeping. People were doing all this morning jogging, running, everything in the road with all the heavy vehicles passing, and it's all kind of two lane. It's too much distractions over the night. I couldn't focus so much because I couldn't keep myself awake looking at the lights, heavy lights. It's very challenging. Um, but just before the trip in Asansol, I just missed. I'm very sorry. I forgot this person's name. There's one picture with bike. You can just share, Karthik, with four people behind me. Uh, Give me a minute. I'm just sharing this picture. Um, so yeah, so the person at the left corner with the T-shirt showing his thumbs up next to his face, right? So I don't remember his name, but so what happened is I just before the start of the trip, I'm saying so eventually I got a few friends requesting that they want to meet, and I stayed overnight in Asansol that night. The next day, there are a few people who came in and we had a good chat, and we kind of the next day after the breakfast I left. So before leaving, this person, I just forgot his name. He said almost like, I may not able to join your trip, but what I can do is I can fuel your tank at my cost, so that I would not have achieved one day. I really wanted to do biking, but you're doing it. I wanted to give this fuel to you. This is from me. So these are the people that really changes your perception at over the time, right? So this is one such instant where it is very close to my heart. That's what I said. Uh, so so this trip is about many such people I did came across while doing it. Um, so uh, this when I was doing this Purni, I was really exhausted, and I was into Bihar, and then and was into MP. The roads were so bad near the place called Rawa. There's a Madhya Pradesh border. It's the roads are you would see almost like 2-3 feet potholes. So it's as much as bigger ones. So um, so I was near Jabalpur. Almost I had say uh, almost like 20 hours left to do cross almost like 1,700 kilometers, which I had to do. I was completely exhausted. I parked my bike. So I said to myself, no matter what it is, I'm going to take a power nap. If I wake up at whatever the time, I'll do it. I have a very bad habit of controlling my sleep. If I say to my mind I have to sleep for 5 minutes, I'll sleep only for 5 minutes. You won't believe I'll only sleep for 5 minutes. No matter what it is. If I say to my mind, this is how I tuned myself whenever I take power naps. Say if I want to sleep for half an hour, I speak to myself. Even now, daily life, I will never wear watch. I never keep my mobile in ringtone. I never keep alarm. Never in my life. So I strictly follow biological clock. Sometime it misses out. It's fine. It's fine. You're training yourself. It is fine to miss. So I strictly follow biological clock. So 45 minutes if I want to sleep, I sleep say for more 45 to 50 minutes or 55, that's still fine. So I wake up. So I was just such moment in Jabalpur when I slept in a fuel station. Completely exhausted. I wanted to do it. And I slept for almost like 1.5 hours there. Eventually ended up doing almost like around 18 and a half hours, doing less than 1,700 kilometers remaining. Until then, I never know my GPS track, which is there online. It wasn't tracking. So people all over in the group, whichever I shared, they were sharing in WhatsApp saying that no information from Balaji. I'm not sure where he is and where he's right now. So I never even looked up my phone. Not even once. I never took it from my tank bag at all. So that's how I write. So so I was into this. I woke up. I refreshed. I kind of I used to speak to myself. I'm not sure it doesn't make any sense to people, but it keeps encouraging me. So I wanted to do it for people who actually following me and people such person like him who actually even give me one tank fuel for a purpose to achieve which he hasn't even met me before, who was very stranger. I'm very stranger to him, right? So he never even would have met me before, but still he is willing to do something for me. But this is what it kept me pushing to go for it, right? So that point, I woke up, I rode. I never looked out any clock. I know it was like I'm to ride without stop. So until I reached Gujarat border, the roads were pretty bad. And after hitting Gujarat, the roads became wider, 4 lanes. Even the state highways were 4 lanes there. So I was pushing to the extreme, not even looking my phone. By then, it was around like somewhere around 60 hours. People were starting looking out for me information saying that where I am on. People are even someone sent me saying that someone spotted me in Ahmedabad crossing Ahmedabad outer ring road to group. So this time there were messages to in the group. Always used to had Divya, my wife, in the WhatsApp group, so that so that she's aware of where I am and what is going on around and who are there for all these things, right? So she has right to know, and that's how you have to keep your family within this as well. And again, she felt more confident in terms of whatever I told her. She knows that I will do it in 66 hours. That's the level of confidence she has it, the level of preparation I put into whenever I share this information to her. So she said, well, people were kind of pretty much, I would say, they were worried about whereabouts of wherever I'm in, what happened to me because no information. Messages are all across biking community saying that okay, Balaji is traveling to this distance, not happen. He has this bike picture and all. They have been sharing it. So I didn't even know what's going on background. Okay, I was riding towards Koteshwar, Gujarat. So eventually, I did reached out to Koteshwar, Gujarat in 66 hours. That's where the screenshot you could see the GPS. There's a um, there's a BRO person who received me, and I stayed in their place. There's a small ashram there. I stayed overnight, and eventually he did serve me with few breads, eggs. That overnight, I was completely exhausted. But the moment I reached out, I didn't even look at my mobile. I messaged saying that I'm done. That's all. I'm exhausted. But I didn't know until the next day morning that whatever happened, people are looking out for me. They were looking out, sending messages to all across. And I actually realized that so much people they care about someone that haven't even you met before, but this virtual world has become so close to the making the world very closer. So even if you don't see a person, but still you're very close, that you can still realize that you're part of them. So these are things that I learned from this trip, and which is always a very close thing to me. It's a very good experience to share, and thanks for bringing it.
Yeah, I think Balaji, that was a very rounded session with you.
Yeah.
I think you almost shared all your experiences that I ever listened to you, and even more. So that was fantastic. I think once again feel reassured that the purpose of having such a YouTube channel is met. Though most of my works are regarding photography and filmmaking, I think now I have to bring more people with experiences, regardless of whether they are photographer, they are filmmaker, a biker, a cyclist, or anything else. So this channel will be for sharing experiences, Balaji. Very proud to have you on Hornbill Studios.
Thank you, Karthik. Thanks for your
Yeah,
time. And thanks for all the listeners who were listening and who have shared their comments, who have shared their wishes. And thanks for your time. And thanks, Karthik, once again. Thank you all.
yeah. So once again, a last note: if you want to communicate with Balaji or follow him, you can follow him on Instagram.com live_ride_explore. That's his handle. So for more such experiences, and mainly my sessions are on photography and filmmaking. Now you might have seen most of the sessions are in Tamil, but in future I am going to bring more English sessions. So to follow me on the YouTube channel, you can just hit the subscribe button, the red button down below, and press the bell button. Leave your comments, suggestions. I'm open for it, and that's how I want to grow this community. So thanks a lot, all of you. A lot of bikers um from north to south, east to west, who have joined the session. I don't even and never even met some of them. It's nice to have all of you on Hornbill Studios. Thank you, Balaji, once again.
Yeah, thanks, Hornbill Studios. Thanks, Karthik. Please do subscribe to Hornbill Studios. Thanks for hosting me. Thank you. Yeah.
Welcome, Balaji. So let's end the session. See
Yeah.
you
Thank
all.
you.
Bye.
See you
Have a
all.
nice
Thank you.
day.
Bye.
Have a nice
Stay safe.
weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bye. Stay safe.
Let me end the line.
Yeah.
எப்படி போச்சு